I'm seeing like a lot of the clients that I'm using the words like trust much more often and building trust much more often. And it's funny because our traditional approaches to trust building are, dare I say, pre-pandemic approaches. We need to get everybody together. We need to do this team building activity. That's not what I'm doing with a lot of my clients, because that doesn't necessarily work. And a lot of them, we're not in the same space anymore. We're still in, whether we're back in the office or not, we're still collaborating virtually with a lot of different people. And so a lot of it becomes this work, right? This work of teaching people how to role playing through scenarios of how are we going to respond to this. And sometimes it works great. And other times I have to have really uncomfortable conversations with clients because I tell them the way they're going about it is wrong and it's undermining trust and that sort of thing. But that's probably been the bulk of what I'm getting questions around right now, are like, how do I as a leader build trust with my people? And that makes me have to go, okay, let's talk about your interactions with them on a regular basis. And this is in every industry. I mean, this year alone in banking and finance and tech and military and government and all, and nonprofit, just sort of every industry. I think there's a real trust deficit going on right now. And smart leaders are figuring out, I need to change my behaviors to change that trust deficit.
Can you give us a couple of tips on how to generate trust? Because some leaders may assume that, hey, I'm trustworthy and I have the best interests of others, and therefore I don't need to go the extra mile or be intentional and proactive to create trust. But you and I know that trust is a two-way street. And therefore, if I want to initiate trust, I should not wait until people trust me. I can do certain things to generate trust, and therefore people reciprocate that, and I can have that trust built quickly. Otherwise, trust is going to take forever if you wait organically. Do you have any wisdom, any advice?
So I talk about it as kind of three elements. Trust works in a loop. Like you said, it's a two-way street, right? I talk about it as three elements in a loop. The first is that you give it away. You don't wait for people to earn your trust. You give them their trust. Now, you give them their trust and you verify, right? If somebody betrays your trust, that's a different issue. But you hired smart, skilled adult humans, so you should be giving them some level of trust by default, right? By the very fact that we as an organization decided that they had the knowledge, skills, abilities, and intent to be a valuable member of the team, you should give them some level of trust, right? When people, we see this in a myriad of different research, when people feel trusted, they're more likely to trust you in your turn. So how do you get people to trust you? You give them trust first. The next step is sort of, if they feel like they could trust you, they'll take a leap. And we already kind of talked about this with that, that they're not giving you 100%, right? They're giving you a version of it. They trust you. Why? Because they're testing you. They'll do something to test that trust. They'll take a leap of faith. Maybe it's a disagreement. Maybe it's a new idea. Maybe it's talking about something they messed up on and asking for help. It comes in a lot of different forms. As a leader, what can you do? The best thing you can do is de-risk that. All right. And so we've already talked about this in past too, is de-risk it, one, by sharing that you're receptive to feedback, but two, by asking for it candidly, right? You lower the distance it feels like they have to leap. And then the last step is, when they take that leap, they have to feel respected. They have to feel heard. We sort of talked about that with when you're in disagreement and in conflict, but it's the same thing in a failure. They have to feel like you're not going to judge them for all time as a failure, that you respect that mistakes happen. And unless this person's consistently underperforming, like that, my job is to help you make sure you don't make that mistake next time, to learn from it next time. So it's this loop of like trust, leap, respect, right? They trust, I take this risk, this leap of faith in you. And then as a leader, I have to feel that I respect you. And so when I work with clients, and I can't get into the nitty gritty because a lot of NDAs and that sort of stuff. When I work with clients, that's the thing I'm trying to tease out, is where is the breakdown? Is it the first place, they don't trust you because you're not willing to trust them? Is it that you haven't de-risked the leap? Or, and this is the case in most organizations, is it because nobody taught you how to make people feel respected after they share, right? And so it depends on where it is, but that's a lot of the work that we're doing now.
Yeah, when I facilitate team building exercises, one of the things that I bring up is, I ask them, if you have ever been a part of a high performance team, what are some of the things that you have seen? And we boil down, they may come up with like 30, 40 factors that helped that team to be a high performing team. But when we distill it down, it comes down to three things. They have common goals, and they communicate very well. And the last thing is trust. There is a strong relationship and trust. And I ask them questions. follow-up questions. One of the questions I ask is, if you have to deal with one of these, which may take you long time and efforts, which one would you pick? And in most cases, they would tell me, trust, because they're right. If they don't have common goals, you can help them within an hour, even within 2-3 hours. That's it. If they have struggle in communication, if they don't have any communication strategies, maybe 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. But if there is a breakdown of trust, it may take them weeks and months, even years. What I want to ask you from your experience and what you have seen in around the world is, especially when trust is broken down, when there is a trust trust breaking down, and when somebody is not keeping the words and so on, regaining that trust is very hard compared to generating trust, earning trust. Regaining trust is very, very hard. Do you have any shortcuts? How can they accelerate so that it doesn't take them forever to regain trust?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a shortcut because it's not the type of thing that can be shortcutted, right? I guess my one piece of advice to remember is that to rebuild trust takes more than apology, right? And first of all, you can't do a non-apology, right? And we all know what a non-apology feels like. I'm sorry if you were offended. That's not an apology. That's a non-apology, right? I did this. It was wrong. It had this negative effect on the team, and I'm owning it. That's an apology, right? That's great. That's a great start. But the next thing that has to happen is, here's what I'm going to do differently in the same scenario. After talking with you, after learning more about this, here's what I'm going to do differently as a result. And then the way you rebuild trust is that people watch you do that differently next time. People aren't actually going to trust that you made the change until they see you in the same scenario acting better, right? That's what it actually takes. And unfortunately, that can take a while, right? But that's what you have to do. It's a twofold thing. You apology for sure, but then you have to talk about what the change as a result is. And then you have to be patient with them and recognize that they're going to have to wait to see you walk out that change. And that can take some time.
One of the books that helped me a lot, and some of our audience may benefit, is The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey Jr. And he talked about when trust is high, things are done fast, cheaper. And when trust is down, things are done slowly and very expensively. And I think a leader should have that ability to speed up trust, because it affects the bottom line. It affects, it's become very costly.